This is a battle between modern and classic. One side is fully armed but inexperienced in combat, the other is samurai warriors with the experience of fighting forged over thousands of years, but equipped with only a katana sword. So which side do you think will win? Please watch this super good movie to answer the above question. Where then is a soldier who was discharged because he participated in the massacre of the Indians. So there are many sequelae caused by this war. He drank every day and lived off of gun advertising for Winchester arms. Apparently the whites took the land and carried out the massacre that left the Indians only in the museum. But here again then had to change white instead of black, saying, the Indians are a bunch of barbarians robbing people and killing people everywhere through boredom. With this falsehood, the male lead decides to quit his job and rather become a beggar than a treacherous lousy. Right when he was unemployed, his former comrade, Captain Ginger, came to say that he had a contract with the Japanese florist, who had just entered the ruling period of Emperor Min, who reigned over the emperor with the development of the West. Really want to implement due weight and policy for the country which is backward. So through the cabinet, Omura personally went to invite Cole to Japan to train their fledgling army. He pays a salary of $500 a month, 20 times what the male lead gets when he advertises for Winchester. He was starving, so he was so stupid that Zero VND said before going into Omura training that their opponents were mighty samurai warriors. After Japan had gone through the shogunate era for several 105 years, the samurai helped the emperor to make a coup and overthrow the powerful shogunate. The emperor began to re-establish the state apparatus in all aspects, including the constitutional monarchy. However, many people did not like this change and reacted violently. If it turns out to be true, the privileges reserved for samurai will be greatly reduced. Of course, no one is willing to give up their power. So, the samurai warriors decided to retreat into the mountain and make it their own land, where Cole would have to train new soldiers of the Japanese government to defeat the samurai class. Not knowing what to say, these soldiers were mostly forced into the army and had no combat experience at all. The male lead and his comrades have to teach them little by little, from how to arrange the formation to how to hold a gun, learn how to use a gun, but miss the target. However, the colonel behind the backlight wanted to marry the silver-headed general of Japan equals how to press Cole. Only these soldiers go to battle right away. Immediately the male lead said that they were not ready to fight the experienced samurai. After saying this, he immediately proved to the general that the latter was holding a gun and shot at a soldier and told the enemy to shoot back. The soldier was so scared that his pants were shaking and he didn't dare to follow such a weak man. If you go to the battlefield, you will definitely log out of the earth. However, the colonel thinks that the samurai are just bandits with swords. How can they win against the power of Western weapons? He is determined to force the new soldiers to confront the warriors. Samurai. Otroniai complained that he tried to stop him because he had already received money, so the male lead had no choice but to do it. Soon, Meiteng led his army into the forest. The soldiers didn't know that this was the mass grave for them because they were only hired training officers, so the backlight had no obligation to fight with the Japanese. He quickly hid in the distance to observe. The swallow goes first, but the Cole is different. He can't abandon his soldiers when they come to the gun, doesn't know how to use from the depths of the forest. The shouts and hooves of horses are rushing, making everyone panic and worry. As soon as he saw the samurai in the place, he immediately commanded everyone to be ready to fight. Even though many enemies like these new soldiers were too scared, the new wife quickly died. On the spot, people fled for their lives. Even the male lead's closest transliteration had a tragic end. The only thing left to do was to fight until the end. He hit from the horseback to the ground until he ran out of bullets, then used the bayonet to attack. The public is no longer at fault. The pairs carry the flagpole out to play. Even though he was wounded in the hand, he still fought so bravely that the samurai did not dare to rush into their leader. Standing on the outside looking at it is also surprised and admired. After all, the male lead finally had to collapse from exhaustion. At that time, there was a samurai wearing red armor, coming to take his life, but he grabbed the gun next to him and stabbed it through the neck to log out the samurai next to him. Seeing that, he rushed to kill him, but the leader suddenly shouted to stop and asked to be captured alive. So he was tied to a horse and taken away. While dreaming, the male lead saw that the silver-headed General Hasegawa had cut his stomach with a knife before being cut off by the samurai leader. He couldn't understand why the Japanese did that. After that, the Cole was brought to the village of the samurai and entrusted to a woman to take care of her. Is the sister Taka of the samurai leader Katsumoto. And the red-shirt samurai he stabbed to death in the last battle was Taka's husband. It is true that a narrow lane is unfair, but according to the tradition of martial arts from the past to now, any warrior who loses a battle must cut his stomach and end his life to preserve his honor, but the male lead is not a man. Japan should not be able to follow that principle. However, the early Sumotos had another intention for him very quickly. Winter has also come, with snow falling, making the whole village isolated. People in space can't and people outside can't enter. The cultures of the two countries are different, one heaven and another, making it difficult for us to adapt. Fortunately, the Katsumoto often come to confide in order to avoid boredom when the two talk. The male lead asked, "Why did the silver-headed general surrender and slit his stomach but you still killed him?" The Katsumoto said it was because he asked for it himself. "Moreover, I feel very honored to witness an honorable death of a samurai." Where Cole continues to question why he ended the husband of his sister Katsumoto and made her a widow, "Then why don't you just kill me and let Taka take care of me?" The leader immediately used the 4 thoughts of a samurai to explain on the battlefield. If you don't kill the husband of the Taka, he will kill you too. Both are responsible for bringing victory to their side, so there is no right or wrong here. After saying that, the Katsumoto bowed their heads to show their respect and left the cold place that haunted so much about the war with the Indians in the past. After listening to the leader's confided words, he suddenly understood many things that he could not understand before in the village. More and more Cole began to notice the beauty of this place. He was also lost, attracted by the dignified rules of life of the samurai. So he decided to learn how to live to become a true samurai. In the process of getting to know the male lead with my family Kate living in harmony when she is out of the house to work, he will also be there to help reduce the guilt in her heart as well as pay the debt of gratitude. Currently, Taka also feels very surprised because Japanese men never help women with housework. He said that he was not Japanese so she didn't have to worry about it. As a result, the relationship between the two has now changed. She was no longer angry with him about killing her husband, but opened her heart to him more than the cold place here for a long time, so she was in harmony with the life of the people in the village. His swordsmanship also improved greatly, and at the same time he also learned the humility, focus on no arrogance of the samurai. One day, Cole came to ask the Katsumoto what war is. Compared to him, the leader replied that it was for the sake of sanctity. He took out his sword and said 405 before the emperor gave this sword to my family. Many members of the clan died fighting for the emperor. Our lives are not important, respect is the most noble thing, and now we have been betrayed by the emperor himself, but this is a complaint that I cannot stop the development of the emperor world. And the samurai era will also come to an end. In the evening, the whole village watched the performance together. Little did they know that a group of experts had infiltrated here and lurked in the shadows. Their purpose is to kill the Katsumotos. The samurai received a blow that was too unexpected, but even so, they were able to turn the tide and win against the family. The next day, the motorbikes were looking at the flowers, when the call came to ask if the people going up there were sent by the emperor. He said that if the emperor wanted him dead, he would slit his stomach with just one sentence because the samurai for thousands of years had always been loyal to the emperor. Currently, Japan is trying to catch up with the world where samurai are hindering that development. So the person who sent the ninjas here could be the emperor, but it could also be the cabinet. However, this is not very important because the samurai were abandoned by the later era. The two confided about the psychological sequelae caused by the war with the cold place. He said that every night have nightmares. The Katsumoto told me so too, but so did anyone who had experienced the horrors of war. So I have returned to the place where my ancestors lived like these blooming flowers before we die, enjoy every moment of life. Remembering the lives I have taken is the way a samurai lives. At this time, the cold place clearly understood the spirit of the samurai warriors. Not long after the situation changed slightly, the emperor agreed to let the samurai into the capital to meet. This person complained that the killing of the Katsumotos was most likely ordered by the emperor, so this time they entered the channel fearing that the outcome would not be very good, but the Katsumotos remained blindly loyal. The king said that when I die, I cannot help but die. Japanese society at this time has changed in all aspects, the national potential has developed rapidly. The street is filled with Western colors and there is industry. The film will be the world's largest skinny. Therefore, the people after seeing the samurai were extremely frightened. Katsumoto quickly got to see the emperor this time. He came not because he wanted to be independent, but only hoped that the samurai could keep their tradition so that it would not be lost in the development of the country. But now, the emperor has accepted the policy of constitutional monarchy of the West. He couldn't do anything because everything was out of his control. Then the Katsumoto were kept in the imperial palace by the cabinet official Omura, while the other side went to see the new army of the emperor. They were now extremely elite and skilled, no longer weak soldiers. Initially, this new army had not only cannons but also powerful 6-barreled machine guns. If there is a clash, the samurai will surely take the loss. Then on the street, the soldiers laugh at the samurai who are hindering the development of society. They force them to cut their hair. This was an unacceptable humiliation for a samurai, but there was nothing they could do about it because they were no longer needed in this era, not even in Cole. He was preparing to return to the US when he heard Berkeley say that the Katsumoto will be assassinated tonight. The male lead couldn't let his friend in danger, so he decided to save the Katsumotos. However, the Omo cabinet man soon knew where the Cole would be tamed by the samurai, so he sent 4 assassins to kill him. At that time, the male lead wanted to pull out a gun to kill quickly, but thinking about it, now that I'm a samurai, I don't use a gun anymore, but play with bare hands to give it blood. The fighting skills of the current Cole place were very low and he quickly stole the enemy's weapons and used that katana to kill them. Then the place where Cole was helped by friends successfully pretended to be the president, entering the place where the Sumoto were kept under house arrest. At this time, Omura gave the samurai leader a painful blow to remind the Sumoto to kill himself while he was still honorable, where Cole and other samurai warriors were present to save him. After that, they started fighting back to rush out of this place. The sword arrows of the samurai once again confronted the guns of the soldiers. Obviously, the samurai did not try to confront such powerful firepower. Many warriors had to lie down by their side with no choice but to run away. The gun is painful to think about. Cole placed together with everyone quickly returned to the village. The Sumoto said that now they only have 3 ways to go: 1 is to surrender, 2 is to commit suicide, and 3 is to fight to the last breath, where Cole chose to fight to preserve the honor of the samurai. At least death can be used to warn the emperor. At this time, Taka and her son also had deep feelings for men. She herself asked white people like him what to fight for. The Cole place replied that it was because they wanted to come here to destroy what he loved the most. After listening to the song, she was moved to tears, and that night, the two of them worked together to shovel 9 tons of coal into the damaged furnace. At this time, the Cole place has become a blonde samurai. He has a reason to protect his home and his loved ones before going to war. We put on him the red armor of his dead husband, and the Sumoto give the male lead a sword with 4 characters engraved on it. Shining Light is a sword for samurai that is crystallized from classic and modern. Then the heroic warriors dismounted into the final battle. Everyone knows that this time they will hardly return, but one thing is certain, that their death will turn into immortality. Meanwhile, Omo's army to the other side was also ready. As well as carrying cannons and machine guns with him just to be sure, the battle officially began immediately. Omura led the person who lit the cannon to attack before its destructive power was so terrible that many samurai had to fall apart that could not stand the heat had to run away. When the spirit saw that, he immediately organized a pursuit, who expected it to be a trap created by the samurai to lure them in, then set fire to siege and then used a bow and arrow to destroy the enemy's life force fighting fiercely. That the Sumoto still asked about the fate of the 300 Spartan warriors in the story where Cole had not been told before. He said that they only had 1 chance left. After hearing that, Katsuhito immediately ordered everyone to rush out and kill all the soldiers that came chasing here. After that, the samurai warriors continued to move forward. There were those who were seriously injured and had to tie themselves to the saddle to continue fighting, not afraid of death, not afraid of guns. Omura saw this and hastily fired machine guns at the samurai, causing them countless casualties. But even though there was only 1 last breath left, they were determined to charge forward without backing down. At this moment, where Cole and the Sumotos were both hit by bullets lying on the ground in pain, Omura ordered his subordinates to quickly finish off the sand. But no one dared to act. They were moved by the spirit of the samurai. The last samurai leader of Japan chose to slit his stomach to have an honorable death. This scene brought the army officer to tears. He took off his hat and knelt on the ground. The soldiers behind did the same to show their absolute respect for the Sumoto. After that, Nathan went to see the emperor and gave him the sword of the leader, hoping that the samurai spirit would always protect the emperor. After 5 years, the ruling cabinet decided to give him a lecture. Once, he said that we now have cannons, guns and nice clothes to wear, but we must not forget our roots. It is impossible for the country to develop and abandon the gods who have contributed to the country. At the end of this movie, he returned to the samurai village and started a happy life with the person he loved. The movie ends here. Hello and see you all again.